WNTN Radio Boston, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Italy-Echo, Boston's only bilingual Italian-American show. Today, my guest is a theorist, human rights activist, political economist, and social philosopher. He is a Congolese-born, American fermented, and globally bottled merchant of ideas. I love this definition. I am beyond excited to host Jo Sekimonyo. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to WNTN Radio. So, first of all, why, in your opinion, does the world seem to be stuck while the gap between rich people and poor people is increasing?
Yes, it seems like especially with capitalism, we know how to create prosperity, but we don't know yet how to share the prosperity, right? When you look at even the third world country, then they don't know yet how to create prosperity. They create wealth, they're catching up, but still they're gonna end up with the same problem than the U.S. When you look at the U.S., there's one data show like this: 40% at the bottom hold only 2% of the wealth, 10% of the top wealth, 70% of the wealth. Now, if you look at these two groups, there's something that comes straight up. The 40% at the bottom, they have a nominal wage. The 10% at the top, they get profit, right? Of company, of investing the money. So straight up, it should tell you like the biggest problem is how we compensate the two group, right? One, the poorest one are the one who get a nominal wage, and the richest one tend to get just profit of the investment. But the biggest problem of this is that just a difference, or is it based on injustice? And that's why we stuck. We tend to be as globally, we have like a psychological contract with capitalism that is hard for human to see another or to create another system, right? We keep patching capitalism, and that's why it's gonna keep going as long as we don't look at this difference as based on some injustices and understand what are the injustices in this system.
Thank you. And please elaborate on what is ethosism.
Ethosism is come out to say is a solution, right? There's a guy who in 19th century, 1930s, who wrote Bertrand Russell, who said, if you want to diminish people love for money, which is been told that is a root of evil, we need to create first a system in which everyone get enough and no one get too much. It's easy to say than to do. Some people say social inconsistency, and I say, no, that's not a solution. We need to understand how people now get too much. One, we need to look at first labor, right? Labor have become too super efficient, right? We produce so much of everything with the help of technology. That's lead that now we're not anymore consumer, right? In the 60s, people say the fear was consumerist, but now is we just shopper. And then to patch everything, the machine we have created what we call an addiction to the what I call the oxycontin of the people, which is credit, right? Now we got to borrow to buy what we super produce because we're super efficient. But I say that's not really the problem. The problem is when you look at 18th, 19th century, during the industrialization, people took people from the farm, bring them in the city, and taught them how to make shoes. So the person who invests in teaching how to make shoes, he got to get a percentage and you get a salary. But today, you and I, we go to school, right? We go buy our means of participation, right? If you want to get a job anywhere, even McDonald's, you have to share a resume. You need to know how to use a computer, you know, public. So it's not anymore like the 18th century. We bring to the table our means of participation. And then capitalism is based on the notion of scarcity, right? There's not enough for everybody. So we got to fight for the little. However, we neglect one of the resources that is infinite: human creativity, right? We have the ability or innovate. We keep changing. If something run out, we find out another thing to change it. So, and that makes like this enterprises today is based on skills, labor, money, and so forth. I say in the 21st century, the new paradigm is people on their own means of participation, and gold, money is the same as skills, creativity, and muscle. And as we become shopper rather than consumer, so any enterprise built on one thing, breaking our indifferences. It's like they're looting us, they have to rob us. And this looting, everybody's involved, from the guy who cleaned McDonald's to the guy at the counter to the CEO to the investor, just to take our money. So no one should get compensated in the nominal wage. We should all get a percentage of the profit. And when everybody get percentage of profit, what does it do? One, the middlemen get out, right? The state, the government. Two, we're gonna slow down the proliferation of billionaires, right? Because all the money gonna go everywhere. So we're gonna solidify, even create a better middle class. And that's what I go. That's what I say. Ethosism is one, need to understand the argument to set the paradigm shift. We're not anymore in the 18th century. Some of us have like crazy amount of financial aid just to pay our own our means of participation, which we bring on the table. So our means of participation, which is skills, is as good as money and as good as gold. And by that premises, we should all have recompense in the percentage of profit. And we have the technology to do it. People says, how can you calculate every day a percentage if I can get 2% and I want to pay 10%? We have the technology to do that, right? It's gonna go as smooth as it could be if we understand, if we accept it to adopt the system.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And in your opinion, how can we erase more of global debt and make the gain more inclusive?
I look at it like when you look at every country, the 10 so-called richest country, right? When you look at France, Italy, uh, US, China, all of them, Germany, they are also the most indebted, right? They're $1 trillion debt. When you look at the poorest country, right? Burundi, Congo, Chad, they're also, they're also the least indebted. So somebody have cheated, right? When you look at Burundi and Belgium, they have the same size, almost the same population. One is poor, one is rich. Belgium, of course, colonized Congo, but that's not the key, right? When you look at the debt of Burundi, I think it's close to 2 billion, right? But when you look at the debt of Belgium, it's 600 billion. So if you give Burundi 600 billion, it's going to be a Belgium. So I'm like, people cheated. They took advance on the future. So we need to create a new system to save. We know that US, Italy, France, they're not going to repay the debt right now because they need to cut social programs, right? But we can say, let's give, let's credit each one an account of $1 trillion, right? On a ledger that gonna be kept by the International Monetary Fund. So let's say the US has, I think, 17 trillion debt. So minus 1 trillion is 16. But a country like, let's say, Burundi, which has 1 billion, he's going to have 999 million billion to spend. And what is Burundi going to say? We can put a cap to say, well, 50% you can do infrastructures, 20% of social program, and 25 to catch up on minimum wage, right? We can do it. And what is Burundi going to do? Burundi cannot build road. Burundi cannot create infrastructure. What they're going to do, they're going to import from the West, right, labor to modernize the economy. So even though the US or Italy will get still some debt on the pocket, maybe 1 trillion, but still it's going to create opportunity in this world, employment in third world. So somebody told me, but that's giving money or this despot a lot of money, they're going to waste it. I'm like, yes, they will waste it. But at the end of the day, right, Congo, Burundi, I don't know, Chad, Myanmar, gonna look better than than it is today, right? Poverty will be less primitive than it is today, right? When you look at Italy, poverty in Italy, it doesn't look the same as in Senegal or Benin, right? It's so primitive, poverty, right? There's no social program, there's nothing. So we rather let them spending, create social program, which when we will talk about poverty, global poverty, we're not going to talk about it in the most primitive, the most disgusting way.
Right. And how is a country like the Congo DRC so rich in raw material, but its people so poor?
I say like we need to rephrase it. When they talk about Congo is rich, is 14 trillion worth of raw material. When we look at the US is already 17 trillion debt, right? And this raw material, you need to dig it. You need to create some of this worst ecologic catastrophe to get the 14 trillion. So a country like Congo is like a fallacy that is rich. Which was which we should just say, why a Congolese in Congo is poor? And the answer is simple. He lives in a low income nation, right? Minimum wage in Congo is $1 a day, which is not even enforced. So if you work hard as you could, right, in a menial job, you cannot even afford dignity, right? Because you're gonna be getting paid less than what is expected, what they call poverty line, which I think is $1.96. So that's a problem. They have not understood uh, political economy in the 21st century. Right? They still, as I can say, their notion of life is still colonized. Right? It's up to Congolese with all of us by asking the right question. Right? Every time that people say why Congo is so rich and the country is so poor, we misguiding them to the solution. But if we just say, why Congolese in Congo? Because I'm Congolese, I live in the US, I'm not poor, right? So it's just because I'm in a country where is high income, right? And all the transaction that I do is of high value compared to Congo, right? We need to help themselves to modernize their question and their aspiration instead of still binding them to colonial views of raw material, right? And that's what the way I see they can start the first step on the right direction.
Thank you so much. And where can we find your book, Ethosism, Self-Enslavement, Abolitionist Manifesto?
Is I think is on Amazon, everywhere else. People can just Google either my name or just Google ethosism. Ethosism itself, ethos, the term exists, but ethosism, it does not exist. So that's why then I've been asked all the time, right? I was talking about this system. We need this system. So everybody was asking me, what is this system? So one day I turned to my wife. I'm like, Google, we're driving. Google, is there ethos? Is the term exist? She said, does exist. I said, okay, this is what we're gonna call this thing that I'm talking about.
It's
So
a neologism. Great.
yes,
Yeah, ethos comes from Greek, I think.
there we go. But
we ha
nobody talked about ethosism.
Yeah, that's totally innovative, so and very original.
There
Great.
we go. Yes.
That's very interesting. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.